Okay, everybody loves gold. Roger, where's the gold? Where can I find the gold? Well, there's some gold right there. And guess what that happens to represent? They say it's a vein of gold. Well, it's actually an artery of gold. This is the red blood. And it has settled here. And the gold has settled to a point somewhere down at the bottom. It will have had a spot that is what's called a seed. All right. Now, as the fluids drain out, the arteries and the veins both sometimes will just fill up with quartz because they drain out. Everything drains out of them. Well, this one here, and I think this is a artery. It could be a vein. I could be wrong. But it looks like red blood to me. The black blood is usually the arterial, vein blood. But regardless, what happens is the blood drains down through the tube, and it usually has to be the artery or a fracture somewhere where lets that blood drain out into the water or whatever. Now, as all of the blood and fluid is draining out, all of the metals that are in it go with it. Now, specific gravity will say a certain type of metal will be here, and another one will be here, and another one will be here, just like this. This is a chunk of metal. This is a toe. And you can actually see the last of the bone in the toe, and there's the bloody spot of the artery right there. The artery ran up here, and there's the artery, and this is the side that had the vein on it. All right, and that's the arterial side. Oop. Anyway, they clog the blood. It's specific gravity, just trust me. So, heavier things will sink to certain different depths. Now, however, when you have crystals and gold wants to attach to more gold. That's the beauty of gold. Well, I know that some other stuff is the same way. It's diatomic power. They want to attach to each other, so there's one right after the other, and they just build on each other. So as this fluid drains out, somewhere down there, it's leaking out, and there's a seed. And that seed starts to grow more and 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 more. And the fluids are just and it's sort of draining out or it's leaking through, so whatever. But the heavy metals are coming down through here and collecting right here is the gold. Now, I maybe can show you something a little better or something else. I don't know if it's better, but hold on. All right, as I have shown you, or I will show you, that gold is found with copper, and copper is found alongside many other ores. Gold is silver, lead, zinc, many other metal deposits mixed in with other ores. Copper is not usually found in great abundance. When it is mixed in, you know why? Because all of these things float through your body. These are the metals right in this area. It's your gold and copper and nickel and zinc and cadmium and so forth. These things have a lot of interaction. They call it ligands. It's little molecular attachments. They call them metal complexes. Transition metal complexes. That's what they, because these are all transition metals. You see this blue area? That's all transition metals. And what does that mean? Transition means I can grab a hold of this, bring it to you, drop it off with a transition from me to you, and you give me a little thing, transition to me, and I go about my business and bring that back to the lungs, to the kidneys, to the lymph system, to the wherever. And you go and deliver that to make my bones or energy or whatever it is. These are give and takers, transition molecules. And this is the area that we're talking about right here, copper. And copper is the big one because copper has a lot of extra electrons. It's way down here close. It's got a lot of power, but it's got a ton of extra electrons. All right, now, I guess we'll just continue. All right, if you understand metals, you will understand the colors that metals represent. And these are the colors. Now, red obviously is your ferrous oxides, your, iron. Now, all of these other colors, you can see that they are obviously in specific areas. This is the heart. This is a heart cut in half. It was originally this way. This piece was on top of that piece laying this way. And you say, oh, Roger, how can you tell that? Well, I can tell that because of all of these different colors here. You say, well, there's colors everywhere. And I say, yes, there is, but these are not like those. You see the red here? And there's no big chunks of red. You got all these brilliant colors right here. Well, why? You got all metals here. They settled down and left the reddish, watery hemoglobin blood up here. The metals have sunk down and collected here. Exactly like happens in specific gravity. Just exactly what we're talking about. Whoops. Now, these are the metals that are the transition metal complexes. That's these things right here. And they, when they move through your body, they're in the blood. They're delivering and picking up products all the time. And that's when your heart keeps going. And these things keep moving, and these are pickup and delivery agents. That's exactly what they do, transition metals. That's their job. They call it ligands. Look it up. Now, I always had a point here. Hold on. Well, okay. Here's the point. When we go back and look at what Enoch said about them training them in metallurgy, he originally starts out by saying, when it originally was, all of the rivers and so forth just had chunks of metal in them. They just had chunks. They could take them out in blocks of metal, blocks of copper, blocks of gold, chunks of this and that. Now, that's because these creatures were so huge, and these rivers were literally their blood supply, and their veins and arteries, and these chunks of stuff were in there. And all they had to do was take them out and to process them. But then, of course, they take out all the easy stuff. Now you got hearts. They still find them in there. They can still find chunks of this and that. I get people all the time sending me things that they found. Well, not send them to me specifically, but sending me information about them, pictures of them and all these things. And I've shown pictures of, well, I got pictures of everything. I got a ton of things myself. And I don't have a lot of gold things here, but it's just not the area for gold. Although there will be gold here if I found it, it would have to be on the deepest part and running down. Now the biggest creatures obviously have a lot of gold in them because they're just gigantically loaded with blood. A creature this size, or our size, you're really going to not find any blood. You're not probably going to find any gold to speak of. They'll just be so limited that you're just going to barely find it. But when you got a gigantic creature, you're going to have little pieces of gold here and there. And they settle out, and sometimes they're in the rivers. And well, let's just look at it, because I don't know if I showed it to you yet, but let me show you what Enoch had to say. By the way, just so you understand the specific gravity of things, you see balsa wood 0.2, it floats. Oak wood still floats. It's less than 1. Water is 1. All right, that's what they use as the standard for float and not float. Gold is 19.3. Boof. Depleted uranium is only 19.1. Gold is even heavier. So there's certain densities, because this is really it's called specific gravity. I think now they're calling it molecular density or something like that as well. Relative density or specific gravity. Relative density, how dense is it compared to the water? That's all it is. If it's very dense, it'll go down. It's very, very obvious. Now, but then you go into gases, and you have your relative density for your gases. Some gases will just drop right here, and there'll be a layer of them. And if you get below a certain gas, you're okay, or die. Because usually the heavier gases, when you get down into the heavier gases, they get heavier. And when you get into that, they are ones that invade your lungs, so chlorine and things like that. And they can be layered. Think about it that way. All right, that is a fingertip, and that's one of the arteries. And there's one is exact same fingertip looking thing. Of course, this one isn't gold, but it is identical, same structure, with that little post sticking out. That, whoops, let me get a little light on there. That is the artery, or the vein, one or the other. see it? Now that's the pads on the bottom, and that's that little stub sticking out, just like it is there on that one. Now, this apparently was in the lowest part of the body, and because it's all about specific gravity. I don't know if we went over that yet, but we will. Now, this was a fingertip that didn't erode completely like that. That collected all the metal in its, where the blood would have been, and then everything else eroded away and left some bloody tissue. This just turned to heavy minerals, really quartz almost exclusively. But there's the blood. The blood ran out. This is the artery side. The vein side closes off. So no blood ran out there, but that ran out there. So this was probably a very low point. And then it crystallized. And you see how blood is an extremely good preservative. That's all blood. That's all blood. It's all crystallized blood. All the crystals really are blood. That's the preservative. All right, so we see this now. Let me show you what the veins and arteries look like when they get filled up with gold. You know, when they talk about veins of gold, well, veins cause chunks of gold. Arteries cause literal, well, I'll show you. All right, now this is more than likely an artery. And why do I say that? Well, the reason I say that is because usually what I have found, what did I say, an artery? No, this is a vein. And they normally have clamps. Well, I know they all have clamps that don't allow the blood to go backwards. But what that effectively does is it closes off a tube. And within that tube, you're going to have a mixture of stuff. It's not going to let everything precipitate out into the best, which would be the solid gold. So we see a lot of quartz coming in around here because the tube itself is sort of sealed off. You're going to get chunks and so forth, but inside the arteries, you're going to have tubes. Watch. Now, just so you understand, gold can collect anywhere. It replaces other materials. This is called fascia. It's fibers, and that is in grip skin. And it's the same fibers you see here. I hope you can see these. They may not be completely visible, but these are the kind of fibers exactly like that. Now, this just turned into different minerals because there was no gold at this particular level. But you can see that if there had been gold, it would look quite similar to what we see here, because that's grip skin. Very, very tough fibrous skin, because you just saw it was a finger. That's on your fingers, your toes, your heels, your palms. And I have it, well, here, watch this. This is very cool. Now, you saw that grip skin. This is a palm. That's a whole hand right here, just exactly like that. And this is the bumper part right here, and it runs down just like that. It almost looks like it's putty. And then you have like a thing that runs down this way, a tendinous looking thing, and then it runs over here. That's what it is right there. And it's only up to about here. It's only right about to here. The thing's huge, absolutely gigantic. It's 36 inches wide. And I have fingers from it, and they've been CAT scanned and DNA tested and all that stuff. I've shown them a million times. Now, the point I'm making here is, you see this silver part? You see that silvery stuff? That's not just there by accident. Nobody painted it on there. That is the grip skin. Now, I've shown that in my other giant, which the fingertip itself, one fingertip is as big as that. And that was DNA certified as well. And here's the fingerprints. And again, I've shown these things so many times, it's really getting kind of old. That's the fingerprints. See that? That's just like the fingerprints in your hand, only that's one little stripe of a fingerprint. And if you look up friction skin, you'll see that's exactly what it is. And I had to take this off, and that right there was where the fingernail, well, here, let me show you the finger. But that's the fingerprints. All right, you see that? And that's where it came off of, right off of there. And the fingerprints start right after they start to wrap around the edge. And then we drilled in deep and got blood and had it tested. As the DNA is human. It's 36, well, it's 24 inches or more, 30 inches wide this way. 36 inches. That's the fingernail. And the fingerprints are still on it. This could be tested after, well, it was tested. Well, it refused to look at it. Refused to look at the tests. They're not any just dumb, silly little tests. And if you dispute them, then show me I'm wrong. But this hiding out by the people that we have trusted, it's way, 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 way past time. And I don't know, I always get into this, but well, what can you do? I've been 8 years showing this stuff with the evidence to back up every word I'm saying and just being not allowed to say it. I have like 94,000 people on my YouTube, but I only get a couple thousand people, and the same people every single time, and the ones that they are so out of the mainstream that everybody thinks they're insane. And they did. They took the ones. I don't know. I'm just fed up with the whole thing. I got to be honest with you. Okay, I went back and looked at this. I think I made a bad assumption. You see this pinkish color? I don't know if that shows up well in the camera, but it's pink. Now, to my mind, pink indicates artery blood, because it has extra oxygen. It's red blood. You're red-blooded. Now, when you go through your vein and it goes back to your heart, you have used up the red blood, and it actually turns blue in your body. Now, in the mud fossils, it's black. Now, I think I saw this and saw the black and said, oh, it's got to be a vein. Well, I don't really know now. I have no idea, to be perfectly honest with you. And I've never seen this particular formation before either. However, in most of the veins or arteries, well, I always thought they were arteries, they are completely filled. And then they run down to a certain area. And, well, let me show you a toe. Where do you see this? All right, I might have showed this before, but I think this is red blood, and this is the way I normally think of gold, is collecting in the tube continuously until it's plugged up somewhere. Now, I believe that would be a vein completely open. It might be an artery. Again, we need to do some work. You see that? And believe it or not, I can see red blood here. This is what they call ram's horn. Well, it's an artery. This in particular, I can tell that's arterial. And it comes down and it feeds off this way, and it fed off this way, and it fed off this way. They need to look at this in much more detail, because in all of the asteroids and all the meteorites and all those things, I can see the blood. Here, let me show you this. We can see the blood in here. These are red. I don't know if you can see it in a microscope, but I even think I can see a little bit where the artery, the vein, black and red. I think it's right there, black and red, right there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I believe that's the black and the red right there. You see it? All right, now, but I have a lot of shots showing that this gold is from biology. All right, I probably showed this before, but you're going to see it again. That is a fingertip. This is the arterial side, and that's the vein side, one or the other. But that one filled up completely, replacing all the tissue and blood and everything. And here is the exact same fingertip here that didn't replace anything. This literally is a meteorite. And I can almost 100% prove that. And you'll see that. And you won't believe how much preservation there is here, because that, my friends, right there is skin. In a microscope, you can actually see that skin went in there and was preserved. And I can see all the, it's the exact same thing as this gold one. So we will see that. And I have other meteorites that we're going to be looking at or have looked at. I'm not sure. I get lost in these presentations now because I just sort of bumble along. But there's so much to bumble on, but I can bumble all day. Yep, you know, the more I look, the more I see. I originally thought, you know, look at this. Look, there it is right there. So artery blood. See, the artery blood's in there. And they see this in there. They have to clean these out good, you know, and purify it to get the gold. It's not just coming out in one big glob of gold. As you saw in that toe, it was loaded with all that red stuff. Now, hold on one second. All right, that's a gold fingertip. And you can see blood in there. If you look at these things correctly, you can see things that are quite obvious. Now, I'm sure they put this in some kind of acid solution to try to etch it out, but you can see the biology. Now, this is exactly the same thing. And here's, you see this little spot right here? That's right there. All right, it's supposed to be, it's this way here. And that blood is right there. And if you put it up this way, that and that are this and this. And this just filled up with blood and didn't leak out because the plugs are in here. They're veins. They don't have any. And look at this. You see the architecture up at the top? It's the same looking thing. This filled up its own blood and just packed in where that blood leaked out. That didn't leak out. It just sort of collected there. And it must have been in some kind of packed in. And all of the fluids were able to escape. But that right there, if you can see it, is literally this right here. All right, if it was this way. And then as you move up from there, you go into these spots, which are, you see that would have been this spot right here, you see it? And that little blood forced its way in and replaced that tissue. And the same thing up here. That's where the blood was coming in, right there, the exact same spot. And that pushed everybody apart and forced the gold into that area. And it's because it was coming down with specific gravity and extremely heavy compared to the rest of the tissue. Now, all of the other blood vessels are in here. Again, no mysteries here. Complete denial of reality. That's where the mystery exists for me. All right, this is a giant fingertip, not huge. That is the arterial side, and that's the vein side, black. And that is the tendinous material. This is the bone area that runs down into the, but this is very cool about this microscope. I can move this down, get real close, and then back that back off again. And you see this? You can see there's the vein right there. And that's why you got that black. Now, let's see if we can see the same thing over here. Kind of move that out of the way. Here we go. And there it is. There's your artery. This whole side is the red side. And up there, that's a fiber of tendinous fibers. And I think you could see more than one. One, I think two, three. They're like bundles that come down. I have all this in my anatomy books, but it's, and this on the bottom, that's all the blood that congealed on the bottom. You see it? Now I'm going to go over the top. You see they form these, you see that little red blob there? They form those things like crystals, start to grow on the, like seeds of the blood. Look how cool this thing is. And that's a toe, I believe. It's a toe. It could be a fingertip, but I think it's a toe. As a matter of fact, yes, it is a toe, because this right here is a callus. Now I remember. You see this side? Here, let me hold on. Yeah, I remember now. That's the callus on the side of the guy's toe. Let me get a light over it. All right, you see that? That's the callus on the side of the guy's toe. Now that's where your other toe lays up against the big toe there. This is a big toe with the big callus on the side. Now here's another big toe right here. And that's the callus on the side of this guy's big toe. I'm not kidding you. You see this thing turned into almost metals? And that's where the toenail was on the top. Now, they had all kind of different types of feet. I don't know if this came from a different style foot or it just got shaped in a different way when it got crushed, or whether that pad is, like, I mean, because that's a pretty serious callus. But I know they had. I found. Oh, I got other ones here. I got other ones that are so cool. They'll blow your mind. But I know that I run on very long in this, and people get bored. If you want me to continue on and do a whole batch of this stuff and show all of these calluses, I got giant toes, absolutely enormous, that have still the articulation is absolutely stunning, and the callus, no denial whatsoever. Let me just show you that big one, and then I'm going to cut it at this for today. But if you want me to go more with this, we're showing you all the microscopic shots and all this stuff, give me a thumbs up. All right, give me a thumbs up, and because I need to get this stuff going, and you got to start sharing this stuff. I get the same people every time, and no more. That's it. I get a couple thousand people. Case closed. Now you got to help me get this moving. Let me show you this one toe, and where do you see this thing? Absolutely stunning. And I have a batch more, like even bigger and better. But this one's so cool that I got to show you. All I'm going to do is show you the callus. But it's got the toenail, it's got the grip skin, it's got everything. So stand by, mon ami. Okay, my friends, this is the toe, and this is the grip skin on the bottom. If you put a little water on things, you can see them better. I don't know if you can see this, but I have it up in the microscope up top. This fibers right here, you see that? That's what's in the grip skin. And that's on your toes and the bottom of your feet. That right there is the callus. I'm not kidding you. That's the guy's callus. And again, you got to put a little water on there. There's some blood here and there. There's blood spots. But that is the actual callus on the guy's foot. And this up here, this is actually the toenail. And this is the side. You see this? This black here, oops. That almost never happens where the black blood blows out. This is where the black blood blew out. All right, it blew out because it was a low spot, and that's where the vein came in. Now, the only reason the black blew out this side was because this is literally like bolted on plate across the artery side, so it can't blow out. Usually the arteries blow out and the veins don't. This is a one of a kind as far as I've ever seen. And that's the toenail right there. And it's all bubbled up, you see it? But that's literally the toenail. Alright, so thumb me up, and if you want, I will do a bunch more. But thumb it up and pass this along to everybody. Alright, thank you. I love you all.